If people want the first half, I can put, if people want the first half of this video, you can ask me for it. I will upload that if people want it. I'm only definitely uploading this one right here. So from this point forward, I'm uploading definitely. The other one is optional. I probably won't actually upload that. It's not really necessary. Nothing really important there, but if anyone wants to have that, if there's something in there in the previous stuff that you want to review, let me know. I could share you that. I can send you that video. So probably won't upload that one to the playlist at least. I'll probably upload it to YouTube, but won't put it in the playlist. Anyway, so right, like I was saying, so there's two ways that React manipulates and stores data. We have, let's put that and that. We have state and props. So state belongs to a component. Belongs to the component, and it's inside the component. A prop, on the other hand, is sent to a component. So props come from a parent. So they come from a parent. Parent sends props to a component. That's how data goes from parent to a component. A state is owned by a component and is inside the component. So a parent can send state to a child. However, if you notice here, I don't have any arrows going the opposite direction. There's nothing saying that a child component can send something to the parent. And technically, no. I can't send anything that is mine back to the parent. It's, again, similar to genetics and stuff. A parent can pass down genetics to me, but my unique genetics cannot go back to the parent. I have brown eyes. My dad, on the other hand, has blue. There's no way for my dad to get my brown eyes. He has blue. Now, my children could end up having blue eyes because I might have the recessive blue eye gene. So his blue eye property can be passed down to me. I might have the blue eye property as part of my genetics, and I could pass that down. Even if my wife has brown eyes, she might have the blue eye alternate as well. Probably not, because that's not very common in Dominican, but meh. Not going to cut. That's kind of cutting whatever the term is there, but
hairs.
Time to bust
yeah,
into the
hairs.
Punnett squares.
What? Yeah, the Punnett squares.
Punnett squares,
yeah. But the main thing is that, yes, a couple generations down, there suddenly could be a blue-eyed kid in my family tree because of that cool situation that I could pass that prop down indefinitely. It could keep going down the chain. It's at least possible. It's how two brunette-haired people can actually have a blonde-haired child, which is weird, but it can happen. This idea that parents can pass them down, but the parents can't get that back. So yes, my father can't get my brown eyes. I can't send my brown eyes to him. No way of that. However, what can be done is my parent can have a prop, and what I can do is send a method down that allows it to change. So I can send a set prop down to the child component, and so the child can then run that method to change a parent's property. This is where the father-child analogy no longer works. My father cannot send me a change eye color property. Not allowed. That doesn't work in a human. So now we've gone away from that analogy now. But I can, like, the parent can send down a prop that allows me to change the state of a parent item. And I can continue to now let's say I have a component right here. And then I have another one, another one, another one, another one, and another one. And yet I want this one to do something. We know that in very complex HTML items, you can have very nested divs, very complex divs and stuff. So I could have multiple components down, and let's say that this component here is my login component now. This is my login component. We at least know that one of these is our router, right? One of these, at least somewhere over here, is my router, which of course, this could then be the route. And we have another one here, and another one here. And this right here can be the developer route that we had, right? The developer page with the developer route right there. That's the basic one. Now, when I log in, I need to make sure that the credentials, my authentication credentials, are available to both the login system as well as the developer system. Both of these need access to that data, that state, that information. So bare minimum, if we think about it, I somehow need to make sure that a off property needs to be available to both this component right here and this component here. So if we know that I can pass stuff down, I can't pass stuff back up. Which component here? I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which one of these components would be the highest level that would have to have the auth information? So I can make sure that both this component and this component can have it. I can send it to both of those.
I would go with 5.
Thanks, Jeff. Number 3 probably would be the highest level that could have it, because number 3 has access to both 4 and 6, and which those have access to 5 and 7, which that means I have to do auth here, and that means I also need to send the auth here and the auth here, and this one needs the setter as well, so setter and setter. This one needs the auth and the auth. That's getting a little repetitive already, isn't it? I need to pass this auth prop from router to here to here, from here to here. And this is just this. I didn't include the fact that above the router, we have our nav bar, which that probably needs to change based on whether or not someone's logged in or not. So there's the auth system definitely feels like it should be kind of application wide, right? So it needs to be accessible throughout the entire application. But if I use the prop and state systems, it's going to be very, very cumbersome and very, very repetitive, right? To do this kind of relay race process of passing this information from component to component till they get to the component that needs it.
Does it not just inherit from anything above, from a parent class?
Nope. It only takes what it needs and what it's sent to it. It's very, very isolated to keep things simple. Otherwise, certain components down the line can get very, very massive. If a child component of a very nested system has everything that the parents have, it can become very massive and very cumbersome, a very large object or a very large component. So a component only has what's sent to it through the prop system or its own state. So it only has what's sent to it through props or what it has on its own. It will not pull information from a parent. It will only take what is given. Again, to minimize the size of each component to only need what it needs. So this seems very cumbersome. So what we have instead is something called a provider. And we have a provider and a context system. So we have context and providers. Providers are a component that will provide information to anyone that wants it. Whereas a context, the use context system will pull information from a provider as long as it's somewhere in the child chain. So what happens here is that the provider, this guy right here, is saying, hey, I will provide to whoever wants it, this information, as long as they pull my context, which this right here is a context. Right? And so what allows it to happen now is that any child, so if we say the providers of here, so let's say we have a provider here, what we can do now is down here in number 5, I can just say, hey, use context auth. I want that context. Because I'm a child of the auth provider, I can get that information. I can pull that information into myself. And none of these ones in between need to actually have that pass through. It's a way to bypass the daisy chain system. It's another way to send data from one component to a child to a component down the line without having to pass all the way through the system. This used to be solved with global state, is what it used to be called, something called Redux. You can look into that. This was something that was used before called global state. However, that was also a bit of a cumbersome system to manage. It had action systems and filters, and it was not fun. And back when I was teaching React, that alone, Redux alone, could take a couple weeks to learn. Redux for me, felt on par of a beast as the authentication system in Spring Boot was. So very annoying that we had to deal with that. We no longer need to do that. We just have this provider system now, which is much nicer. What the provider does, like I said, right here, we can create a state that the provider has. So the auth provider has a state that it is providing. This can be anything. It can be an object. It can be a data point. It can be really anything. Boolean. It can be a function.
Basically anything you want to make into a global variable.
Yep. And even then, it doesn't necessarily have to be global. It can still be global within a set area. So if you have like a route if you have a route in your first navigator that is another nested route system of multiple different pages as well, you could actually have a provider that's just for those. For example, our news API system. We can have like multiple pages we can have multiple routes for the news API, the news route, where we have the articles themselves, and we click on one that can open up the ability to share that as a geek out. But there we could actually have a provider of the news articles where we load the news articles once, we save them in a provider, and then every page we go to keeps that news list available if they want to showcase it, let's say on the sidebar or something like that. So what the provider does is it provides data globally to a group of components that are underneath it. Any child components underneath it. All children under this component have access to this state, is what it's doing, without having to explicitly pass it as a property, as a prop. That's the benefit of the provider system. I can now provide data to any child, no matter how far down the chain I want, without having to pass it through the prop system. I can use it through the use context. So what I do here, I create the system. The provider itself could also do use effects. So if this provider was, let's say, like I said, the news article, we might even try to do that we might do that tomorrow. I might take that, because right now we know every time we go to the news page, it re-pulls from the news system every single time. We might do that where we create a news provider, which will load the news once when we load the page, when we load the website. And then we can put a button on our news page that will say to refresh or to reload the news. So that way it'll only load when the person clicks it or the first time they do the page. That way, for those who missed Thursday's class, we'll get to see us make another provider. That's the reason for it. Not that we need it. I just want to be able to showcase another provider for those who weren't able to join on Thursday, since that was most of you. No shade, just saying, just stating a fact. So yeah, we'll probably do that. But yeah, we have this. We can use effect, which we'll be able to do for the next example. So we'll see how that works. And then we just create the auth context component that is the provider that says, hey, this is the provider that provides this information. So the value is this array, this state array with auth and set off. Again, this could be a single value. If it's a static value we want to send, it can be a static value. By using state, it allows it to refresh things. And then we say, hey, all the children are there, and then we close it. We just provide both the provider and the context. So we have the auth provider component, and then the context component as well, which is this thing right here.
So you could just use the getter and not use a setter.
Correct. But if you
Okay.
don't use the setter, remember, then a re-render won't occur. That's the main thing to remember. When you use state and you use the set state
Right.
command, you trigger a re-render. But you can definitely use the auth provider to provide static information or to provide information that isn't going to trigger re-renders or isn't going to change much. So that's the
Yeah,
thing to
I
keep
was
in
just
mind.
thinking, like, I don't know, I always just think the hacking thing, if I could just manually set off to wherever I want to, or set a legal key, I can actually just hack that.
Hmm.
But again, I would have to figure that out.
I don't think you can. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
that's
the
what I was
minute
thinking. I was
guide
just
stuff,
trying to
yeah.
figure how would I set this off somewhere in some way. I probably can't, but I was just
I'm not
thinking.
aware of it. Yeah.
No, yeah,
Um,
just showing that you open up the setters and getters. That's just what gets me. But it
And then
has
to
to be done.
see it in use, we'll go back to register quick. Here to register. We can see here. We bring in use context, and this is the trick. Right? We were able to, just again, to see how it looks. If we go quick first to app.js, see how it looks. App.js, we see there's the auth provider. So we got router here. Go to the router. We see we have navbar, which again, I mentioned navbar might want access to the auth thing so we can show log in or log out, right? The navbar should change to show log in or log out, but also it probably shouldn't show this route here, developers, until they're logged in. We don't have that yet. We'll probably do that tomorrow as well. So you'll see more stuff. I didn't do too much on Thursday because I wasn't feeling great still. But we'll also update this system to utilize the auth system. So we'll show login and register when they're not logged in. We'll show a log out when they are logged in, and we'll show developers when they're logged in. We'll show these two when these items will be shown when they. Oh, sorry. These two will be shown no matter what. Period. These are always shown. These two will only show when they're not logged in. This one will only show when they are logged in as well as a log out. That makes sense? So tomorrow we'll add the context here. So you'll see how that goes. But that just means multiple components need the auth system. We also make sure that developers has access to the token because it needs the token in order to pull the developers from the API. Yeah, so we do need that here. Login and register needs access to the auth system, but really it only needs access to the set auth. So that when they successfully register or they successfully log in, we can set the token. So now if we go to register, yep, we bring in the context and we bring in that auth context from the auth provider. We tell it to use it and we bring in both items. Now note here, we don't actually use auth. See how it's like this? We have to still bring it in though because it's an array. Remember that the auth system set system uses an array. We can pull things in order. It's not like an object we can pull based on the bracket system like we've done. Where did we do that deconstruction thing? Right here, like we did here. So here, we were able to pull name and cohort by name because it's an object. Props.developer is an object, so I'm able to pull name and cohort by their key. Since this is an array, I can't pull them by that. I have to pull them by index. So index 0 is the auth, index 1 is the set auth. So I'm pulling them like that. So I have to pull off even though I'm not using it because I need set auth. I can't skip the first one, if that makes sense. I will clarify there is a way, but we're not going to do it. With that, I can then come down, I can see down here, I can now use, where is it? There it is. And then use set auth to log me in. And for those who didn't see it, let's go ahead and make sure IntelliJ is running, by the way, first. There's IntelliJ, there you are. Here, let's run this, the backend's running. I didn't know it was running already, but. IntelliJ is updated. Don't worry about that right now. Later. There it goes. Started. Now we can start our start. There. We'll go ahead and sign up because we don't have a login system yet. So we'll do that tomorrow as well, or maybe Thursday, probably Monday, because on Thursday we had the other thing. We'll see what happens there. If we have time, we'll do it. But anyway, I can't remember what number I'm up to, so we'll just do 20. Test number 13, because there is no 13. I'll just do the 1. You see it to register, got the number 8, and it logs me in. I didn't, wait, I did not set that, I thought.
Yeah, we did it. We did it in another area. We did it, we did it in a different component.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just look at that later.
Yeah, no, you'll get to it because I think if you're gonna
Yeah.
follow the program, you'll get to it.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll find it again. I'm just trying to remember what I did on Thursday is not great because I was not entirely here. My poor brain. Anyway, see, we logged in. We can pull the developers now. So it does pull developers. It actually did hide those screens, which I don't know what we're doing, but yeah, we'll find that. We'll double check on that again later.
Go away. I'm in school.
Sorry, Jeff, that was just great. You were not muted for that one. That sounded awesome. But you can see that over here, there's my newest 113 Cliff test. So we can see how I'm logged in and how this now pulls. So we can pull that data. We also touched base on as well was this concept of use navigate from React Router DOM. So we can do navigation control from within the system, which we want to be able to do in case we want to programmatically move the person around. So after they log in, if you noticed when I logged in, I was instantly moved here. I didn't click on anything on the nav bar. I was moved here automatically. I wanted to show that concept of redirecting programmatically. It's a common thing. So we do use navigate, make a variable called navigate. And down here you can see we navigate and give it the route. That's what that does. Sound good? So again, we'll go over this a bit more we'll go over a bit more of this tomorrow. We're going to go ahead and create the login form. We're going to go ahead and create a news provider so you guys can see that provider system again. We'll also see us using it. So probably what we'll do tomorrow is we'll start with the news provider. So for those of you who weren't in on Thursday, can see the creation of a provider and a context. So you can see that in process. You can see us make that. So what that looks like to actually build one and use one. You'll also see one that actually does use an API call and uses use effect. So you'll actually get to see that as well. And then what we will do is also go ahead and do the login system. So you can see how that provider again also changes and is used. And we no longer have to keep creating new users to log into our site. That is getting a bit repetitive now. So we will also do that tomorrow. Most likely we'll do again, this will be a Thursday or Monday. We will then do a geek out. We'll actually be able to post geek outs and see that in process. So you'll get 2 more forms. It's really what I want to say. This concept of doing 2 more forms before we move forward. We're probably not going to get into adding languages to ourselves by doing some sort of like profile edit page. We probably don't have time for that. Because again, once I get through those next week, probably Tuesday or Thursday, really Thursday probably, I want to start talking about OpenShift. Because for the weekend the goal is that over that weekend, you guys will be tasked with trying to install and get it just running locally. And that way, if anyone has problems over the weekend, they can get help. And you can also decide, and that way, after the weekend, you can decide if your computer can't handle it, you're going to do the hosting instead, the sandbox version. Make sense? Any questions on that code? I know it's not fully clear yet, but again, hopefully we'll be able to make it a little clearer tomorrow when we do one. Sergio, are you asking a question or talking to someone else? No, we're on the phone. Just making sure. So that's good. Any questions, any concerns?
Sorry, I was just saying something to somebody. If you see my mouse moving, I'm sorry.
I did. It looked like you were leaning into the microphone. Like, is he trying to talk to us?
No.
All right, cool. Just making sure. I sometimes when I see mouth moves and I'm so used to people forgetting to unmute themselves, I try to help out when I can see it. So, cool. Okay, so like I said, we're going to review that a bit more tomorrow. So don't feel like you need to know how to use it today. I'll double check to make sure that the video from Thursday is up. I'm pretty sure I put it up because I want to make sure you guys had it for the break. But I'll double check, and I'll get this one up tonight as well, so you guys have it. But yeah, tomorrow we'll kind of build a couple more of these pieces, and we'll also do a little more on the back end to make sure that authentication is integrated with some of the other pieces. Again, for cohort 14, you guys let me know once you've gotten through enough of the Java videos where you feel ready to kind of start prepping to or start planning for the date you want to do authentication. So you guys want to kind of talk with each other. So that's Tyler, Jeff, Connor, Nick, Nathan, and Richie. Richie's U6, right? That's 6 of you, right? Yeah, 6 of you. Just kind of coordinate with each other. If you notice that if one of you guys are maybe falling a little behind, try to help each other out. So that way you guys are mostly on the same page when we do authentication. If one or two is a little behind, that's fine. You should be fine because it's not too busy, but I want to try to stay as somewhat together. All right. Sound good? All right. If you guys need it at the same time, yeah, during those morning first hours, if you guys need me to cover anything in the previous videos that didn't make sense or want to review anything from the previous videos, make a note of it, bring it up during those morning things. I'm sure some of these guys here probably wouldn't mind too much reviewing some stuff from earlier. Most of these guys do appreciate kind of retouching based on things we've learned before. because it would be a nice refresher for them. Sound good? All right, so as a nice welcome back, I'm going to cut today off a little early so that way you guys can kind of recover, because I know it's the first time back, first time doing a night. So enjoy a slightly less long class. When we go back, we'll probably starting tomorrow again, we'll probably be hitting 9:30 again, as we were before. Sound good?
Very good.
All right.
Take off the recording. I wanted to make a comment